I recognize that I stand between you and lunch. So we've had some really fantastic speakers this morning, and I am going to bring it down to a gut level. I am going to talk more about local, right? It's think global, act local. So I'm going to talk about career choices, using your gut to drive what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And in the era of full disclosure, one of those photos really is my gut. I could tell you which one I prefer, but one of them is actually me. Lisa Ann did a great job of giving you a bit of a background on my bio. So I'm going to skip all of the stuff. And yes, there's a whole bunch on LinkedIn that I don't have as well. And I'm going to talk about sort of where I started my journey. Coming out of graduate school, I got a job with an environmental startup, which was a fantastic job. Then I met a guy and I followed him to California, which was also a good decision. And I took another job selling an environmental product into the semiconductor industry. This company was fantastic. They were global, great people, good structure, leadership initiatives. I learned a lot. I moved around a lot. I had a lot of flexibility, and it gave me an opportunity to have a full life and balance things with my family. I was there for 19 years, which I think is pretty unusual for the Silicon Valley, and sometimes I don't like to admit it because people are just like, what were you doing there for 19 years? But I did a lot of stuff, let me tell you. It was very, very comfortable. And so I found that if you think about the anatomy of a gut, my gut in particular, and you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I certainly had fulfilled the basic ones of food, water, shelter. I had security, I had family. And after being there a while, I started thinking about what am I going to do next? And I hit something I like to call the sanity ceiling. So we talk about the glass ceiling, but for me, the sanity ceiling was, did I want to get on an airplane 80% of my time, fly all over the world, and continue to build this business in computers, which I don't really care that much about computers. I know this is going on the internet and I'm probably hosed, but that's the truth. So I also found that I would come home and I would not be very pleasant. I'd be kind of grumpy, I would be aggravated, and I was thinking, I work with great people, I work with a great company, why am I aggravated? And it kind of came down to the fact that I had sort of hit this wall. And I started doing something really dangerous. I started asking questions. So when you start saying, I don't really want to do this anymore, the big question comes up, well, if you don't want to do this anymore, now what? So how many people in here are at the now what stage? Okay, a fair number of you. It's exciting, it's scary, because you're coming out of your comfort zone. So what do? You start to examine your gut. And how do you do that? You talk to people. You come to places like this conference and these organizations. I was here last year and was so inspired, I'm now up here on stage, so be careful, you might be here next year. Take classes. Volunteering is a great way. If you are interested in something and you want to understand it better, it's a great way to get skills, it's a great way to meet people, it's a great way to understand what your interests are, and you start to find that you're spending time in areas that feed your soul and really start to resonate with who you're aspiring to be and what you want to do. So it takes a while. It's not something that happens overnight. And just to let you know, I started this process over 3 years ago. And once you start doing it, you keep repeating it. The other thing that was really interesting about it is, I sort of came down to, I really care about renewable energy, investment impacting, sustainability, all of these great ideas coming together. But the interesting thing is that it's personal now. I get really nervous when I talk about these things sometimes when there's something on the line. I mean, I can tell you all about how to make a semiconductor chip or a photovoltaic, bore the heck out of you, sit there and talk to all kinds of people from Intel and Samsung, but getting in front and talking about this stuff, for me, it's because I care. And you find that when you get nervous, that is a really good indication of how important it is to you. Because of that, you take a sucker punch now and again. And as I started on this journey, I took my technology, and it was getting back into the envirotech, clean tech area. And solar was a really good place for me to focus. And I finally got my second job interview with a really good solar company. And I showed up early. And I sat in the lobby and I watched the energy and the people moving back and forth and greeting each other. And I was like, wow, this is a great place. This is so cool. And I was escorted into the conference room. And I sat in the conference room and I waited. And I waited. And I waited. And I waited. And after about 15 minutes, I thought, what is going on? Is there like a hidden camera? Am I supposed to like do something incredible? Is this part of the job interview? So I was texting and emailing and trying to figure out what was going on. And finally the HR person came back and she said to me, I'm so sorry. The person who was supposed to interview you, we had a mix up and he is on business travel, so he's not here. And I thought, oh, okay. Stuff happens, fine. Took a deep breath and said, great, well, I completely understand. When can we reschedule? And she said, well, how about next week? So I did, I rescheduled. I came back next week, met the person with the interview, and I wish I could say this had a happy ending, but it didn't. He didn't really like me, and I wasn't a good fit. And so I had this interview experience, and yeah, it hurts. And so what do? You have to get some gut therapy. And how do you do that? You go to your supporters. You have people who are gonna support you. I have my pets, I talk to them. I've got my family. They are here supporting me. And you have to remember to spread it around. You know, after a while, you are this sort of ball of emotion. All of these things are really important to you. But for a lot of other people, it's just another day. So trying to make sure that you strike that right balance and you're kind to yourself and you feed your soul and you take the next step so you can get out there again and keep following your gut. Explore more, ask more questions. The other thing that was really enlightening to me was that I thought I knew the solar industry, but I keep finding new companies or new people doing new things. We live in such a rich environment. It is just incredible. And keep asking that question. Where are we going? Where is this going? It's a great opportunity. And try stuff. Indigestion is a source of information. It really is. I went to the Internet of Things conference, and let me tell you, I think it's all sort of a bunch of old, washed-up guys left over from the semiconductor industry. There was not one talk about sustainability. There was nothing there, and there was a really cool side conversation. They had a parallel session for the Solar Impulse plane that flew around the world on solar power. They had a live feed into their command center in Monaco. They had a live feed into the cockpit. It was just great, the thing that they put together, and there were 20 people in the room. So I learned that maybe I'm not ready to kind of take sustainability to the Internet of Things. But in January of 2015, I got a job at SunEdison. It was awesome. I loved the people, the diversity. I was running a data team. We were managing 1,800 renewable energy sites globally. It took me 18 months from when I said, I'm gonna go do something different, to finally landing a job and all of the stuff in between. So it takes a long time. Reality check. So as probably a lot of you know, SunEdison filed for bankruptcy in April of this year. So I was once again saying, okay, now what am I gonna do? What's my gut telling me? I have another opportunity to say, this is great. One of the things is that when you do this, you're forward looking. Most of the industry wants to see what you had done in the back. What's on your resume? Can you do that for me? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that for you, but I'm gonna do this other thing over here. This is really cool. So building up your narrative around that is really important. And so I've been continuing to do my volunteer work. I'm now working with a startup that is moving software tools into the cloud for supply chain sustainability, which is a really important way to get more people involved in being more sustainable. continue to work with Clean Tech Open and with Taproot, which are also great organizations. Appetite is a good thing, and hopefully you all have one for lunch. If you don't write your story, it gets written for you. I mean, I could have stayed at Edwards and I would have been perfectly happy. I probably should have had a really good hobby. But it's important to follow your gut and to keep following it and trust yourself and put yourself out there. It's a journey and it's part of life. I mean, I guess we never all really grow up and become something. We're always becoming something. So thank you.